Going solo was not just a career decision for Michael Jackson. It was an emotional risk, a personal rebellion, and a step into the unknown. For years, his identity had been inseparable from the Jackson 5. The group defined his image, his sound, and his place in the world. Stepping away from that structure meant leaving behind familiarity, protection, and certainty. But staying meant never discovering who he could become on his own. As Michael grew older, the limits around him became impossible to ignore. Creative decisions were controlled by others. Songs followed formulas that had already proven successful. The image of the smiling child star still hovered over him, even as he matured. Inside, Michael felt restless. He wanted to experiment, to explore new sounds, and to tell stories that reflected his own experiences rather than expectations placed on him years earlier. His first steps as a solo artist were cautious but determined. Albums like Got to Be There and Ben showed flashes of independence, but Michael knew they were only the beginning. These projects allowed him to step forward as an individual, but they did not yet represent the artist he envisioned. The industry still saw him as a former child star testing his limits, not as a creative force ready to redefine pop music. Behind the scenes, Michael worked obsessively. He listened, studied, and learned. He paid attention to producers, musicians, dancers, and arrangers. Every detail mattered. Music became a space where he could finally take control. Unlike the rigid structure of group performances, solo work allowed him to experiment with rhythm, emotion, and movement in ways he had never been allowed to before. Going solo also meant facing fear. Without the group, there was no shared responsibility. Success or failure would belong to him alone. The pressure felt different now, sharper, more personal. Critics watched closely, waiting to see if he could survive without the Jackson 5. Some doubted him. Others expected him to fade away as many child stars had before. Michael was aware of these doubts, and instead of avoiding them, he absorbed them. This period was marked by intense discipline. Michael spent countless hours in studios, refining his voice and developing a style that felt authentic. He began to imagine performances not just as songs, but as experiences. Movement, sound, and emotion needed to connect seamlessly. He wasn't just creating music, he was building a new identity. At the same time, separation brought loneliness. The structure that had once confined him also provided familiarity. Now, independence meant making decisions alone and carrying uncertainty without guidance. Michael was stepping into adulthood without a clear map. Fame still followed him, but comfort did not. The world expected results, and patience was limited. Despite the uncertainty, something powerful was happening. Michael was discovering confidence rooted not in approval, but in vision. He began to understand that his past did not have to define his future. The child prodigy, the lead singer of a famous group, the carefully managed image, these were chapters, not conclusions. Going solo allowed him to close one chapter and begin another. The decision to step away from the Jackson 5 marked a turning point. It was the moment Michael chose growth over safety, individuality over familiarity. The risk was enormous, but so was the possibility. He was no longer asking whether he could succeed on his own. He was preparing to prove it. The world had not yet seen what Michael Jackson was capable of as a solo artist. But behind closed studio doors, a new sound was forming. A sound that carried his discipline, his pain, his ambition, and his vision. Going solo was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of something much bigger. A rise that would soon redefine music, performance, and fame itself.